Welcome everyone to the Peace Alliance Department of Peacebuilding call here on October 16th, 2024 with our esteemed guest speaker, Tushar Gandhi. He is waiting, getting into the airport for a flight, so he has a limited amount of time with us, so we want to get right into the talk. Nancy, do you want to um,
Yeah, I want to welcome Tushar, and we're going to kind of reverse the order of our agenda. We'll talk and do a connection after. We'll talk about the Department of Peace after Tushar has to get on his plane. So I'm going to introduce Lynnea to introduce Tushar. She's known him for a long time, and give just a little background, and then we'll go to I'll ask Tushar some questions, and all of you please put your questions in the chat. We'll get to as many as we can before he has to leave. So thank you for being on the call with us. So Lynnea, would you?
Thank you. Hello, everybody. Namaste. It's a privilege to be here today, and I'm very happy to introduce someone very special, Tushar Arun Gandhi. I've had the honor to work alongside, Tushar, I lost my prompt. Anyway, let's just go for it. I've had the honor to work with Tushar, and I've seen his dedication to his grandfather's legacy. A little perspective about Tushar and his family line. Gandhi had 4 sons. It was the second son, Manilal Gandhi, that was left in South Africa. Gandhi was in South Africa for 21 years, and when he left to India, it was Manil, the second son, that was left in South Africa. And that's where Arun Gandhi was born. That's Tushar's father. So the line that Tushar comes from has a deep connection to South Africa. So I lost my script, you guys. I really had a good talk. Here it is. Here it is. So in 1914, Mahatma Gandhi left South Africa 21 years and left his second son, Manil, Tushar's grandfather, in charge of the first ashram in Durban and the Indian Opinion newspaper. Interestingly, Gandhi departed South Africa on July 18th, the same day Nelson Mandela would be born 4 years later. Tushar's father, Arun Gandhi, was the fifth grandson born in South Africa in 1934, where he lived until 1956. And after his father's passing, Arun went to India to immerse his ashes and fell in love with Sunanda, a nurse, Tushar's beloved mother. They married, and Tushar was born on a train, January 17, 1960, a dramatic entrance indeed. In 1985, Tushar married Sonal, and they have 2 beautiful children, Kasturi, named after Kasturba, Gandhi's wife, and a son, Vivan, a lawyer, following in Mahatma Gandhi's footsteps. Arun and Sunanda moved to the United States in 1987, where they continued spreading Gandhian values. And Arun passed on May 2, 2023 in India. He was an extraordinary man who devoted his life to peace and nonviolence, just like his father. As Raj Mohan Gandhi, Arun's younger cousin, said so poignantly, there are now only 5 Gandhi grandchildren left, and he noted that Arun passed just 5 months before Gandhi's birth anniversary. So we honor Arun's life and the indelible mark he left on the world. So now I want to turn to Tushar, who not only carries his family's legacy, but he continues to shape it in new ways. Tushar's dedicated his life to activism, philanthropy, and spreading nonviolence worldwide. He founded the Mahatma Gandhi Foundation, dedicated to keeping Gandhian values alive in today's complex world. In 2005, he organized a 241-mile walk to commemorate the 75th anniversary of the 1930 Salt March. There were 600 marchers from India, Pakistan, the United States, and other countries that participated. And that same year, the Mahatma Gandhi Foundation received the first Mahatma Mahavir Award for promoting Gandhian values. Tushar G is also an author and a champion for justice and peace. He wrote the bestseller, Let's Kill Gandhi, The Lost Diary of Kastur, My Ba, and he's fought against religious intolerance and communal violence. He's even appeared as himself in 2 Bollywood films. How cool is that? So, the other thing I want to say before we end is Tushar leads life-changing tours through the heart of Gandhi's India, offering deep insights into nonviolence. And I want to express how grateful I am to have taken those tours with him and his fathers, much like what Martin Luther King did and Reverend James Lawson did. They traveled to India to study nonviolence. The journey is a travel opportunity of a lifetime. It's life-changing and it's open to everyone. So I would encourage anybody to take those tours with Tushar. His wit and passion and wisdom are contagious, and I'm sure it'll be no different today. So today's a wonderful opportunity also to ask him questions. So without any further ado, I'd love to introduce my brother, Tushar Arun Gandhi.
Thank you, Lynnea. You've been too generous.
No.
Tushar, I wanted to get right into some questions. I don't think we'll have time to dwell on your Bollywood career. Would love to hear more about it, but I'm going to go straight into. You've said in at least one interview that you reject emphasizing the Mahatma part of Gandhi's legacy, and that the magic is in Gandhi being an ordinary human being and his journey toward being extraordinary. I'd love to hear you talk more about that and, you know, his ordinary side, his extraordinary side, and how we can all emulate that.
I have always felt that the title of Mahatma has been a great injustice to my great-grandfather, because it sort of is used as an excuse not to emulate what he stood for and not to try to change oneself to become more like him. And the excuse would be that he was in some way, because Mahatma is just one rank below godlyhood or saintlyhood. And so, you know, it would be very easy to say, oh, he had divine powers, and that's where he was able to do all these things. And we are mere mortals. We can't even aspire to be like him. And so I decided that I would demystify the Mahatma persona and introduce people to the ordinary human being with all his weaknesses and all the follies that he committed. And yet, at every time that he realized his weakness, or he realized that he had made a mistake, he owned up to it, and he promised himself that he would never ever commit that mistake again, or he worked hard to convert that weakness into a strength and become better. And that is what I feel is the inspiring part, because if we you know, we discover him to be as fallible as all of us are, then he becomes believable, and we can aspire to become better ourselves. And so I have made it my life's mission to always talk about the ordinary human beings who in the beginning of his life failed at almost everything he tried to do. And yet, after every failure, he refused to be pushed down and said, no, I will strive and I will find a space for myself. And he kept improving. And all through his life, once he realized that what he had done was a mistake, after atoning for it, after seeking forgiveness for it, he made a conscious effort never to repeat that mistake ever again. And I think those are qualities that all of us can also emulate. And so that is the reason that as far as possible, I don't, I'll give you an example. I don't refer to him as a Mahatma. I'll give you an example. Uh, I was working with a team on a proposal to make a series, a biographical series on my great grandparents. And they had decided to call it Mahatma Gandhi. And the first thing when I joined the team, I said, please don't call it Mahatma Gandhi, because you're giving an excuse to the people to deify him and worship him, but not emulate him. And they said, we agree with all of that, and we're going to show we're going to portray the ordinary human being and his extraordinary deeds. But if we call it Mohandas Gandhi, nobody is going to realize who we are talking about. And so, because he is known as Mahatma Gandhi, and when we say Mahatma Gandhi, then everybody knows who we are talking about. And so, we can't take the risk of using a not so popular title for the show. So this is what I call the imprisonment of the title Mahatma. And I have made it my life's goal to liberate my great-grandfather from that imprisonment of the title.
Seems like he was almost a scientist. You talked about his constant experimentation and his maniacal need to improve. So,
yes, in a way, he was a scientist who experimented on himself and tried out things. What was admirable of him was that he was not afraid of experimenting without even knowing what the outcome of that experiment would be. He was audacious enough to experiment, and he was honest enough to admit that this experiment didn't work. Because sometimes you get so obsessed that even when your subconscious tells you that there's no way ahead, this is the dead end, you just adamantly keep beating your head against that wall and don't achieve anything. Whereas this man had that honesty to say, okay, I tried this, didn't work, I'm going to move on. I'm going to try something else. And the failure didn't inhibit him from exploring some more uncharted territories and things. And that is where I think he really succeeded, that adventurous spirit in him.
it feels like a lot of courage in that whole stance to me.
Yes, I think courage, the real courage is in confronting one's own self and not actually the external things, because our weaknesses are more internal than external, I believe. At least our psychological weaknesses are more internalized than they are external. And most of our inhibitions are because we are sort of afraid of challenging what we in our subconscious believe to be our weaknesses. It's not a general rule, but by and large, that is what I believe in.
In your book, Let's Kill Gandhi, you talk about the death of your great grandfather, and there were so many factors surrounding that, including ethnic violence and turbulence in India and Pakistan and Kashmir and elsewhere, and misinformation, lies, mistrust, the role of law enforcement and politicians, apathy and human error. I see a lot of parallels, a lot of those factors going on, well, in a lot of places in the world today. Probably in India, definitely in the United States, in the Middle East. What kind of lessons can we learn or apply from his experiences?
I believe that most of the conflicts that we are witness to in present times are because of greed of nations, or greed of human beings, and also because war has become the most profitable business of our time. And that is the most unfortunate thing to happen, because as soon as something becomes profitable, then the tendency to exploit it for profits comes in. And today, I see that in most of the conflicts that are ongoing in the world today, there is a great element of greed and chasing of profits happening. And so
for the next 10 minutes.
Did somebody mute themselves? Somebody's talking over this.
yeah, so I believe that that was the case in during the last 4 years in India of India's independence and my great-grandfather's lifetime. And so in my book, I have focused on that period of the last 4 years of his life, and then the conspiracy to murder him and his murder. And one of the reasons I wrote that book was because when I was writing the book, I was seeing the same history repeating itself in India at that time. And since then, I see it happening all over the world. And I thought it was necessary to remind the world that we have gone through this phase before, and we are going through that phase one more time. And to show the world its consequences of the toll it took on humanity at that time, and it is taking this time. If we talk about the ongoing conflicts, both in the Ukraine and in Palestine, although they seem to be localized conflicts, they have the potential of escalating into global conflict at a drop of a hat. We are on the verge of a nuclear disaster at any moment. It just requires an irresponsible person to be in control of the nuclear trigger, and it could well happen. And we are seeing the rise of those kind of irresponsible leaders in our midst. And so the danger is increasing. And I think, unfortunately, humankind has this tendency of not learning from its past follies and, falling into the same trap over and over again. And that's where groups like what you are doing, the peace studies, and the propagation of peace is never going to be enough to assure the world that at least there are, even if it's a very faint voice, there is a voice of sanity which will keep reminding people of the dangers to our existence today. And that is what the objective of writing my book, Let's Kill Gandhi, was all about. Although it talks about his murder and investigation and all that, but the message is to ring an alarm about the mistakes that we keep committing over and over again.
Thank you. I have a million questions, but I'm gonna go to a couple in the chat since I know our time is short. Kendra wants you to talk a little bit more about your great-grandmother and also maybe how the women in your life have influenced who you are or what kind of world we should have.
I believe that if it wasn't for my great-grandmother, my great-grandfather wouldn't have achieved what he did achieve in his lifetime. And that was starkly apparent when in the last 4 years of his life, after he lost my great-grandmother. And he sort of lost an anchor in his life. And while writing about his last 4 years, he himself and his close associates have mentioned many a times that he even became delusional and started imagining that Ba was with him. Ba is my great grandmother. I call them Bapu and Ba because to me they are family. And so he acknowledged the influence she had in his life. And even in his early life, he has acknowledged my great grandmother as being his tutor in civil disobedience, because in their marital life, when he sort of tried to assert his authority over her, she defied that in a very polite and non-violent manner, but did not succumb to his dictatorial attitudes and made him realize the folly of what he was doing. And in his autobiography, he writes about how he learned his first lesson in passive resistance from Kasturba. Even later on, their relationship, although at times he also was very unkind to her, and while suffering from a bout of manic depression and ill health, he even rejected her and called her a bovine-faced woman. And then at other times, he called her the most beautiful woman in his life. So it was a relationship which was very strong, built on a very strong foundation of mutual trust and need. And yet there were contradictions. But there was a lot of humor in that relationship also, because at times when Ba refused to abide by what were not really very practical attitude that my great grandfather had. I'll just illustrate an incident in their life when they were living in Sevagram, which was his ashram, his last ashram in India. And his fame as a great leader had already spread by that time. And so at the time of his birthday, there would be requests for people to be able to come and spend the day with him in his ashram. And so on one of those times, when my father was also present in the ashram, a group of very poor women from the neighboring villages requested that they be allowed to come and spend a day in the ashram on 2nd October. And my great-grandfather wrote back to them and said, look, I'm a very poor man, so I can't host you and provide anything for you. So you're welcome to come and spend the day with me, but we will not be able to provide you any meals. So you better carry your food with you. And in the ashram, it used to be a communal kitchen. So everybody, food was cooked for everyone in the common kitchen. And then everybody got together at meal times and had their meals together. Ba, because of her health and because she wasn't able to palate the food that was cooked in the common kitchen, was allowed to have her own kitchen in her in the hut in which she used to live. So on that day at lunchtime, she saw that there was this group of women who were sitting under the tree in the compound of the ashram at mealtime. And they had started opening up the small parcels that they were carrying with them. And so my great-grandmother called my father and she asked him, she said, Arun, why aren't these women eating with everybody in the common dining room? So my father told her that Bapu had told them that he can't feed them and they should bring their own food. So now they are eating what they have brought. And my great-grandmother got very annoyed. And she says, you know, my husband has lost his marbles. He is shaming me. How can he not provide food for guests? She said, maybe my husband is very poor, but I am not. She told my father, she said, go and tell those women to come to my house and I'm going to cook a meal for them. And she cooked a very simple meal of rice and lentils mixed together and fed all those women. So now this was reported back to Bapu because it was a defiance of his order. And everybody thought that he would get very angry and as was his practice, for every folly that was committed in the ashram, he would punish himself. So they thought now he's going to punish himself. But when he heard of it, he just smiled and he said, you know, even the Queen of England listens to me, but the Queen of my heart has a will of her own. And if she decides something, then I think I will not object to it. So there was that kind of mutual respect between the two. And my great-grandfather, in his own way, realized that Kastur provided the practical anchor in his life and prevented him from going astray in all his experimentations and things. And so we also realized that after losing Kasturba, he did go overboard in his experiments in the last 4 years of his life. And that I think was due to the vacuum that Ba left behind in his life.
Mm.
Unfortunately, the persona of my great-grandfather was so huge and overpowering that the world conveniently forgot
Valerie, I got headphones
of my
on.
great-grandmother. And so we have pushed her into the shadows of history and never attempted to discover the greatness of my great-grandmother. And that's why my second book about the lost diaries of Kasturba Ba, where I have atoned for my own mistakes of not realizing the importance and the important role that she played, not only in the life of my great-grandfather, but also in shaping the history of India in her lifetime and contributing to the freedom movement. And so I think she deserves a status of her own. And that is also my mission in life, to make the world accept the greatness of my great-grandmother also.
Mm. Sounds like she provided some balance there
Absolutely.
to a
Absolutely.
degree. I'm being asked, maybe Karen, could you mute people or could people mute themselves? Because there's some background noise coming in.
Yeah, I just went through and muted everybody. Yeah.
Okay. And then how much more time do we have?
I can take 2 more questions.
2 more questions. Okay. What gives you hope, or what keeps you going? What kind of inspiration?
I get inspired by my great-grandfather's spirit of never giving up. No matter how hopeless the situation seems, I just don't give up. I'm like a dog who refuses to give up the bone that is holding. You know, the situation in India at the moment is very difficult, and many a times the amount of hate that I am subjected to because of my political and social stance, and because the current ruling dispensation comes from the ideology that was involved in my great-grandfather's murder, an ideology that believes in violence and hate and murder. It is a battle in my country, and many a times it seems completely that we have lost. And yet, the inspiration of my great-grandparents gives me the ability to get up again and fight on, and without any expectations of a result. The the dominance of hate in India today, the Indian society, is such that it's unbelievable. The poison, the venom in our society is at unbelievable, unprecedented levels. And it is continuously being pumped into our bloodstream. And, you know, we used to, 2 decades back, we had the beginning and we had the symptoms. But now it has the venom of violence and hate has seeped into our homes, into our families. And it becomes very difficult to face that and yet keep fighting. And I see that happening all over the world. I see the forces of hate overpowering the forces of peace and love. But there is no giving up. There is no giving up.
If your great-grandfather were alive today, what would be his experiment in nonviolence for the current age?
You know, I keep getting asked this question, and it seems to me that it is asked from the position of the crisis we face, and it's you know, looking for a panacea for the moment of crisis. But if you look at my great-grandfather's work ethic, he never waited for a crisis to begin his work of nonviolence and peace building and peacemaking. He was clever enough. He was like the doctor who checks the pulse and says everything is fine now, but 10 years down the line, this is what is going to be the malady that you will suffer, and starts treating the symptoms. He had this uncanny ability to see and diagnose those systems in society. And when the early signs appeared, he started working to ensure that they did not develop into a terminal illness. And unfortunately, now what has happened is we wait till it becomes terminal, and then we start trying to find a solution. And many a times it's too late to do that. And that is where when I talk to people who work in the field of conflict resolution, I say many a times, you know, conflict resolution waits for conflicts to happen and then tries to resolve them. But the time has come when we have to now start detecting the symptoms that are going to lead to the conflict, and start working well in advance to ensure that those symptoms don't turn into a disease and become terminal. And my great-grandfather wouldn't have waited till this situation where there is a question mark on our very existence at the in the present day. He would have realized what the situation was going to lead to, and he would have started addressing it much, much before the conflict ever erupted.
Prevention, right? we don't want to let you go, but we know you have a plane to catch.
Well, I can almost see the plane taxiing in.
Oh, no, we better let you go. If you have time, any last words? If you don't, thank you so much.
I'm very sorry that I have to be in party terms. I have to be the party pooper, but unfortunately, aeroplane schedules are beyond my control. So it is with a sad heart that I have to leave all of you. But as I said, people like us who believe in peace and non-violence, there is no giving up for us. And in the present situation, not at all. No matter how hopeless the situation seems at the moment, we have to, clutch at straws and believe that we will conquer, we will achieve the peace. We have no option at all apart from that, because if we give up, then there is no hope of humanity surviving. And so, till the last breath is what, or till the last man standing is what we need to live by. We owe that to humanity, whether it is our violence against the environment or our violence against fellow human beings. We have to keep confronting that attitude till we lessen it, and then maybe in a perfect world eradicate it. So thank you very much, and my apologies for this rushed schedule, but maybe some other time,
We
at
need
a
to
more
have you.
leisurely time, we
Yeah,
will
we
meet
need to
again
have you
and share
again.
thoughts.
Yes, thank you. And next time we'll dwell on your Bollywood career.
Thank you so very much.
Thank you so much,
Thank you,
Tushar.
Tushar-ji.
Bye-bye. Stay in peace.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Thank you.
We'll send you the chat. There have been a lot of wonderful wishes for you in the chat, so we'll send you a copy of that.
Yes.
Thank you so very much. Thank you so very much.
Karen, do you want to, are there any things from the chat you might want to point out, or we could have a little bit of discussion, or we could go back to what the beginning of the call was going to be and then return to the discussion? What do you think?
I think it'd be good to see what's alive in people. I think there were a couple of questions that Kendra put on there kind of early, but yeah, should we go into discussion, or maybe we could do the brief connection exercise? Amina, do you want to lead us in that? So that we're connected one room, and then we'll see what's alive for people after we've taken a
that
little
sounds good.
silence.
That sounds good. So stay on. We want to hear from all of you, but Amina, go ahead.
All right, I'd love to. All right, so we'll do a quick connection before we continue the discussion. Sit comfortably. Relax your shoulders and focus on your breath. Inhale love and peace, and relax with each exhale, releasing any stress or resistance that's in your body. Feel your feet on the ground, connecting to the earth's energy, expanding love and peace to everyone, and becoming aware of this oneness and connection with everyone and everything. This shared connection, we share with each other our wisdom and our gifts with an open heart and an open mind, combining our shared desire for a peaceful world. And with that intention, we continue this beautiful conversation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Amina.
I wanted to thank you, Katja Miller, for connecting us with Tushar also, and just call on you for a second if you want to say anything you might want to add about this. And of course, it's up to you. You're on mute, so I don't know if you would like to add something. Different cutout, okay,
Sorry, I just came late, so I just
okay.
last 10 minutes, but what beautiful energy that I felt from him. And thank you for having him.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank you, thank you.
it's good to be
Um,
careful.
do folks want to raise your hand and we'll call on others who might want to say something?
Yeah, you
Evelyn,
can do that using under more and the react button. There's a place that says raise your hand, and then you'll come to the top of the queue so we can see you.
okay, and I saw
your hand as
Evelyn
well.
raised her real hand. You can also raise your real hand.
Yeah, just we've got 3 screens of people, so we might not see that as readily.
Okay, so Evelyn, would you like to unmute and say something?
Good. I was so encouraged to see his longing for peace. And we all have that longing within our hearts. And there are a significant number of people on our planet today who are longing for that peace. And let's keep it going in our small circles, wherever we are, and to bring this peace to our world. We will get there.
Thank you.
We'll get there. We will get there. If all of us work at it, we have to keep working at it. We cannot sit back and let it happen. Each of us has an active role to play in bringing peace and love into our world. Love for every human being, no matter who they are, what their status is. They need our love. They need our love. And thank you for this program. I truly enjoyed it.
Thank you so much. Louis, would love to hear from you, and thank you for the email earlier today.
Yes,
Did you have a comment?
yes,
I'm
Yeah, it sounds like you've got some kind of an echo going on with your microphone, or maybe multiple microphones.
maybe we're having a really hard time hearing you. Maybe you could put your comments in the chat and we'll do it that way.
Well, I would like some other fashion.
Yeah,
So
you're
Karen, are
coming
you
through muffled and maybe echoey. We're not able to make out what you're saying.
That's some
maybe help is on the way. Okay. Karen, are you seeing others that have raised hands or?
Should I check? You correct?
Yeah, well, they're working on that. Anybody else? I'm flipping through. Sandra Clayton.
Yeah, thank you for letting me speak. The organization that I'm involved with is like a 3,000-year-old philosophy. It's called the Soka Gakkai International, and where we say the words Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, which was originally discovered by Siddhartha Shakyamuni Buddha, 3,000 years old. And so we're in 190 countries, 192 countries, and our goal is world peace through each person changing through saying these words, which means the law of the universe, our cause and effect. And our organization our international mentor has over 300 honorary doctorates and citizenships and dialogues. And we have an exhibit that travels around the world, and it's called the Akeda King and Gandhi exhibit. And we've met with several of the members of Gandhi's family. And so I'd like to just give you, because we're out there every day fighting for this, fighting for each individual to enhance their life, to become absolutely happy and spread this. And I'll give you the website. I don't know, people are probably familiar with Tina Turner, but this is the practice that she that changed her life, and each individual that does this becomes absolutely happy by overcoming their obstacles. So I'll give you the words and the website, and it's SGI, like Sandra George Irene USA.org, and look this up in any country, and you'll see, wow, these people are out here every day using their life for all these years to be able to do this amazing work for world peace. So I invite people to check it out and look into it and just really see, wow, there truly is hope by this amazing organization. We had 12,000 youth in one day around the country. A couple months ago, we had about 140,000 around the world participating with sharing their benefits through the so we have no statues, no priests, no temples, and we do not charge any money. You can't even give money to our organization. So anyway, thank you for letting me share this. I've done this for 56 years. I've never even had a cup of coffee, Coca-Cola, nothing. I never wanted to mess up my mind in any kind of way. So anyway, I'm so grateful to share this, and I hope everybody looks it up and can use this practice, whatever. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
I was hesitant, but I said, I've got to do it because we're fighting here every day. Every day. Great. Everybody, if everybody was doing this in this self-reflection of Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, cause and effect, we wouldn't have the world that we're having. Try to assassinate somebody who's running for president, try to kill somebody who's driving down the street, or dope, or, it's like crazy. So anyway, I could go on and on, but anyway.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'm gonna check in with Louis. Did you want to try speaking again? And if it doesn't work, we'll move on to another.
Okay, thank you. When I went through the it was that I'm
Are you able to make out what he's saying, Nancy?
No, we're having a hard time understanding that. So maybe put a comment in the chat, and thank you for trying. I know.
Yeah.
Well,
Technology doesn't always work for us. Yeah.
Exactly. I thought I would just take a minute to talk about who we are, and then we can return to some more comments. Usually we do this at the beginning of the call, but this call is from the Peace Alliance and the National Department of Peacebuilding Committee. And on July 11, 2001, the first modern era Department of Peacebuilding bill was introduced in Congress. That was exactly 2 months before the 9/11 attacks. And we often wonder how would things have been different if we had a Department of Peacebuilding back then, and if we had been practicing some of these more compassionate practices back then. In 2004, the Peace Alliance was formed to promote this legislation to create a cabinet level Department of Peacebuilding. And we've added other peacebuilding related legislation along the way. The bill's been introduced in every Congress since 2001. It makes nonviolence and peacebuilding an ongoing national priority, with a seat at the table of government to consistently raise a voice for nonviolent policies, practices, and programs. By modern era, we mean a bill that looks at violence prevention in a holistic way, that recognizes that there are root causes of violence and root conditions of peace. and that recognizes this applies to violence within ourselves, our families, our schools, our communities, and other domestic international institutions and policies. And at one time, the bill was called the Department of Peace and Nonviolence. We currently have 49 co-sponsors, and we're working to add more. We need your help for this. I think Karen did put in the chat, or will put in the chat, ways for you to contact your member of Congress and how you can add your name and your organization to the Department of Peacebuilding endorser list. We have currently over 600 organizations and individuals on that list, and we need you all to sign on, no matter where you live. Peace is a national and an international issue. And some of the other things we've done is extensively contact and meet with members of Congress. And so far in this Congress, we've met with, had 173 meetings and counting. So if you're interested in joining any of those calls or advocating, you can contact me or Karen, Nancy at peacealliance.org, or Karen at peacealliance.org. And we definitely would like all your help and participation. So that's a little about us. I'd love to go back and find out what else is on your mind from this call. What you know, anything else, any impressions or takeaways you took from Tushar? Anything along those lines? Lynnea, I know you've had a lot of experience and interactions with Tushar. Would you say a little more?
Well, one of the things that I heard Tushar say, and I agree with him, is that it's really important to focus on prevention, just like preventative health.
Mm-hmm.
What are the solutions that we should be focusing on to prevent violence? Understand the signs and the symptoms that are showing up. That's the point where we engage in dialogue. If we forget that step of having dialogue, you know, we hear something, or we hear something third party, and we react, and then we take action on that reaction without having any dialogue that creates something. So I think that, and that's the work of the peace building. If you're familiar with those escalation curves, if we worked on the preventative, whatever it is, you know, even within ourselves, the dialogue we're having inside of ourselves and with one another, you know, that's where I think that's really what we need to focus on as individuals, communities, and that overflows into our governments and hopefully our leadership. And if not, then I think it's important to get busy electing more enlightened leaders. So we have leaders like Tushar and Marianne Williamson and others that can bring that. And Sabu is a good example as well, who we just had last week. The Peace Alliance hosted. Individuals in congressional, parliamentarian positions where they're making choices based on peace, you know, creating a culture of peace. So I heard that, because that's one of the things of working with the Gandhis. They were always on the forefront of what the need was that we should be focusing on. So I was happy to hear him say that. It's really, we have to prevent, and that's exactly the work that the Peace Alliance is doing. So I think one of the things that we should do as a peaceful community is work to come together, organization to organization, and figure out how we can create that culture of peace together, where we're collaborating in a whole new way. You know, I think that's where the work needs to be done. That's what really when I was listening to him, which was really great. Thank you for having him. It was so good to see him, and he looks so well. Looks very healthy.
That was awesome. Thank you, Lynnea. You're hired, by the way, to be our publicist here.
Oh, God. I just want to be on the team. I think the Peace Alliance has a fantastic team. The work that you guys are doing is amazing, and it's needed. I think a lot of the people on the call participate with the Peace Alliance, but I love what you guys do, going to Capitol Hill, raising the awareness of what's needed. I think it's you know, I'd like to be more involved. I'm involved just a little bit.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I wanted to, I don't want to put you on the spot, Judy, but if you're willing to say something, Judy has been with the Peace Alliance pretty much since day one, and gratitude to you for that. And just if you had anything you wanted to add.
Well, I'm just always inspired by all of you on this call, every single person, and taking the time out in your evenings or late afternoons to join us. And I'm very grateful for this committee that's worked so hard to put these calls on. In terms of our guest speaker, it's just, I don't know, to think that we are actually speaking to someone who is related to the Gandhi that we have all worshipped and learned so much from all these many, many years is kind of mind-blowing to me, actually. And it makes Gandhi very real for me, because, you know, you look at movies, you read books, you study, you learn about India, and you learn about his life, but to really know someone who actually is directly related to what I can consider to be one of the saints of our globe and our history and humanity is very wonderful and inspiring. And I also agree with what has been said today about, you know, the best way to handle violence is to prevent it. It's the most cost-effective, least impactful, environmentally sane, and humanitarily compassionate approach to what we're dealing with us on this planet right now. So I would also underline that. I think that's violence prevention is critical, and unfortunately, it doesn't happen nearly enough.
Yeah,
Thank
I
you,
agree. And
Judy.
that's what drew so many of us to the Department of
How
Peace
are you?
campaign and all of the
I have
work
a
of the
steady
Peace
state
Alliance
of
over the years.
fantastic. I always tell you this.
Someone who's talking to someone else in the background. We've
We're
just got
very-
about another minute to the call.
Yeah, I wanted to just say one thing. Lynnea had sent me a clip of the Gandhi tour that was being led by Tushar, or at least he was leading that part of it, and he was showing people around the spot near where Gandhi was murdered. And part of it flashed on a walkway, a pathway where there were steps embedded in there on the pathway. And it just made me think how our lives are about the steps that we walk in and about the path we forge. And to have that connection, to be able to, like Judy said, to be able to meet the great grandson of Gandhi somehow makes all this even more real and connects us all. I know all of you are working for peace in whatever ways you're working for it. So I thank you for that. And I think we have an ending quote, maybe. Right, Amina? Do you have an ending quote for us? And then Karen will wrap us up.
Yes, sure. I'd be happy to share that, Nancy. But just for me, from the many things we've learned from, or the lessons that Gandhi has taught us all, for me personally, I think a couple of areas that I think we can use in the chaotic world that we live in today is his faith in the transformative power of love. And as Tushar also pointed out, is relentless faith in humanity. And I think that's what helped him keep going. And for me personally, and I'm sure for all of us, what gives us hope in light of all the ugliness that we see everywhere in the world with all the wars and conflict and genocides that are taking place, that faith in humanity keeps, at least for me, that keeps me going. And well, related to that, I wanted to share a couple of quotes from him. One related to love, where he says, "The day the power of love overrules the love of power, the world will know peace," which I think is very important. And in terms of his faith in humanity, he says, "You must not lose faith in humanity. Humanity is an ocean. If a few drops of the ocean are dirty, the entire ocean does not become dirty." And so that just puts it in perspective for me, to still continue to have faith in humanity. Thank you.
Thank you, Amina.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Word.